Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hi everyone, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. Today I'm going to join in KellyBear's tarot tag 54321 Tarot. And I felt this was a tag I could do, mostly because I heard very clearly acknowledgement that we would break the rules. So I feel I'm plenty okay to go ahead and break some rules while keeping as many others as possible. So 5 tarot decks, or 5 decks. What is the category of those 5? That's kind of up to us. So I chose 5 of the decks currently on my work table being the collection of decks that I have to use on the hotline that day, that week. I changed them out with irregular order. So the Next World Tarot is one of my favorite decks. It's giant. I had the pocket, but I wanted to see all the details in here. I use this deck kind of specifically. I pull cards from this deck usually if someone wants to know who is my future partner or lover or whoever. What do they look like? Who are they? What's their personality? And so sometimes I will use this deck for that. Otherwise, I use it more like an oracle to add on to another reading, and I then pull one card and read it like an oracle just because of all the details in this deck. And so that's mostly how I use this deck. Another deck on my table is my deck. I'm really excited to have the Marseille Prendre Vie here. This is the second round of edits. And so I have this deck and the mini on my work table right now. And I use it in as a tarot deck, usually in tarot spreads and what tarot spreads that comes up later on in this video. So I am really thrilled to be using this deck that I created. It took me a really long time. It's currently on Kickstarter. Go back it. It's called the Marseille Prendre Vie. And it's been really awesome to use it. And I like it because it's what I wanted in a Marseille, a deck that read just like Marseille but didn't look like it. I like modern art. I like full backgrounds. I like color. And I like happy squirrel cards. So this is on my table and I've been really enjoying it. Not tarot, but it's a deck. The Rana George. This deck has been on my table since the day I got it. And there's probably never been a day working on the hotlines where I didn't use this deck. And I probably need both of my favorite Lenormands have a crease in them right now. The other one's worse. So I probably need a replacement of them both. It's really hard thinking about that. But there I am. And I love this deck and I use it all the time. I edged it. It's wearing off. All right. I also have the Curious Cats Club on here. And this is a playing card deck. And I took out the cards that you would use in Lenormand from the deck with 2 exceptions. The 2 aces, that would be the man and the woman, I replaced with 2 twos because they were, that made a good replacement for them. And I have currently been using this and reading it like a Lenormand, but obviously I have different things going on. I use the playing card inserts in Lenormand, and so this gives me some continuity with it here, and it's kind of been fun. I lay it out on my mat here in Grand Tableau, and so I rely on the houses a lot when I do that with this deck, but I have been using that on my table. And this is the fortune cookies deck, and it just reads like fortune cookies. And I will shuffle and pull a card out of here randomly. I have dice in here because I use dice also. So these are cards that are 5 decks that are currently on my table. There are others, but I'm sort of trying to stick to the rules somewhat, kind of. That's how it's going. So I'm just showing you those ones. Okay, next up is 4 books related to tarot. So I would say that means if they're related to magic, intuition, psychic abilities, whatever, it counts. So I have this zine, and it's you know, one that was made by hand, and it's different medicines, and so I think that is relevant. So I also have The World is Your Oracle, and this is about using the world around you as an oracle. It talks about how people from other cultures also do it. But I find reading books like this are great for, you know, remembering and practicing and working on expanding your ability to tap into spirit and intuition. Magic and Islam, I have a bunch of books that are more academic like this, and I really enjoy them and looking at different perspectives and thinking about how it relates to my own thoughts and perspectives, and so that is one I also enjoy. Faces in the Smoke. This, in some ways, is a lot like The World is Your Oracle. This white guy who, you know, grew up exposed to other cultures and consequently believed in magic till he went off for a Western education among his own people, and then questioned what he thought and believed as a child, and then, you know, went all anthropological on researching it, and so there's like aspects of it that read you know, in not comfortable to read ways, like a little uncomfortably, but honestly, so is The World is Your Oracle. It's an older book, and it's fascinating for all those same reasons. And these are the sorts of books that, like, I'm called to probably more than ones that are like, I do have, you know, other ones that are a specifically tarot book, or here's reading about witchcraft book, and how to do it. I prefer stuff like this. I find this far more fascinating and interesting. All right, we are on to 3 spreads. Okay. I use the Grand Tableau for probably 70% of the readings I do on the hotline. I like all of its positions and all of the multiple ways I can read it. I like that I can answer 5 different questions in one reading, and how these different aspects of somebody's life all intertwines for them into the reading. And I really like that. And I think about and fascinate over like the position of the houses a lot, you know, that we've got the scythe and the whip right by the tower, and these are talking about, your work, as does the ship. Letter can also be tied to work, and so can, like, I find that interesting. I just find that interesting. In the house, it comes down to the social life, dating life, the man. Like, I find how things are set up are interesting. The ring and the book are over here, and what I sort of consider like the work corner, the social life, So, like, you have these little areas where it all sorts of pulls out, like, what are your hopes and fears that are going on? And I tend to use the row at the bottom as like, this is the answer. And in I sort of use it as like, this is the answer. Like the bigger question or an overall outcome, or it's the destiny, what's ahead. If it's a love reading, it's not looking good. This will be like where I can tell them about, look, it's not looking good right now, but it will get better. All right, so that was dark, and now the camera's brightened up again, so that's a little bit better. All right, so 2 other readings that I use. Okay, so maybe I need to zoom out some, though. I am a big fan of a crossroads, right? I'm not going to shovel anything good for these demos. So I'm a big fan of a crossroads spread, the situation, what's crossing it, what's going on in your subconscious, what is above you that can help out, that you can bring in, what's in the past was influencing it, what direction do you need to take to go into your future, or what is the future outcome of this. But lately, really interestingly, I've been pulling it into a Celtic cross, except I always hated how it lined up there. So I just line it up down here. And yeah, I don't think I ever would have thought I would be doing that. But I started just being like, yeah, pulling that out into a Celtic cross. So that was a surprise. And it works with how I like to read, because I tend to be like, all right, here's the answer. Now let's unpack it. So, and I read in like a spiral where like peeling an onion, where another layer comes off each go around. So we're going to call it 2 spreads. All right. So a third spread. A third spread that I use in like romance readings and stuff like that. I would pull out, and I do it with both tarot and Lenormand, the person of interest, feelings about this connection or relationship, and the seeker's feelings about this person or relationship, and then what is going on in this reading, like what's the real nature of this reading. Let's let's talk about it with it in frame. So, you know, we see that they're in really different spots as to how they're seeing this. One person sees this as it's beginning, and that's where they're at. They're at the beginning of a relationship, and this person's already, you know, in and thinking about their connections and their future family prospects and how they're going to fit into their life. And they both see this as a bit of a big breakthrough or seeker, in a sense of like, you know, this is going great. We're on the same path. We're so much alike. We're so symmetrically matching and mirroring each other. And this person's like, this might be the breakthrough moment where I decide this is a bit too intense for me. And, you know, the situation is one that's pretty heavy and intense. But I also would use that with tarot, or I would also use that with Lenormand. And so this looks like a relationship that is in some serious parts of trouble. They, you know, are, neither of them look very suited to a very positive or healthy relationship, but, you know, no matter what, this is my love, we're into it, it's cloudy, it's emotional. And with this card, I see that they're just going to keep, they'll fight and they'll come back together. They'll fight and they'll come back together, and they'll keep this circle of toxicity going. So those are 3 spreads that I use. All right, 2 habits. Okay, how do I actually shuffle if I'm shuffling to prepare for a reading? I will shuffle 3 times without bridging, because I don't know how, or my hands aren't capable, or it's hard to say for sure my hands aren't capable if I've just never been able to do it. My grandparents could, and they're the ones who taught me how to shuffle. So I do that 3 times. I overhand a bit, and then I cut it. And this has not always been the way I shuffle. It's changed, and I've never let it become the sort of ritual that, you know, was married to the past as the only way to reach spirit. I've let it shift and change a whole lot over time. And the other thing would be I sweep out the old energies every day. So it's not something I do before I grab a deck of cards. It's something I do before I begin a day that's going to include spiritual work. And one piece of advice. I mean, I kind of gave you advice when I talked about shuffling. Don't let a ritual become the only way to spirit. Let it shift and change. All right. Talk to you later, folks.